2 Timothy 4, and we're going to step into verse 17, but we got to read verse 16. We talked about it last time, but to keep the thought in context, verse 16, at my first defense, no one came to my support, but everyone deserted me. May it not be held against them. And I talked about how sometimes our feelings don't connect with reality. And then there are other times where the feeling is derived from reality. And I think that's the case with Paul. He didn't just feel deserted. He didn't just feel all alone, that there was nobody there to stand with him when he made his defense. That was reality. Excuse me. Here is a piece of reality that I think there are a lot of us. Well, I don't want to make everybody guilty of my sin, but I think most everybody struggles because there's a piece of reality that I don't like very much. And here it is. You're going in your life, you're going to feel abandoned at times. You're going to feel deserted at times. It's just part of I guess I would say it's part of the human condition. It's part of our universal experience. And then Paul goes to verse 17. Well, no, we go to verse 17. Paul just, continues to expand his thought. But the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength. And we talked about this last time as well. God's promise is, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I kind of struggle with that from time to time because I don't see him. And there are times I don't feel him. But does that alter reality? Because reality is God keeps his promises. And he stays with me. Now, I got to do a little cleanup here on this idea, I think. It is, for me, it is true that I struggle with not feeling God's presence. And I think my enemy wants to really capitalize on that because he can leverage it. See, on one side, if I don't feel his presence, then I because this is the way I'm wired, I won't act in a way consistent with the reality that he is present. If I don't feel it, okay. And here's the second thing, and this is also because of the way I'm wired. I feel guilty for not believing that he's present. And maybe there's a legitimate function of guilt in that case, which the only legitimate function I can think of is to get my attention to, what's going on. Why do I feel this? But God is not looking at me going, I don't know why I bother. I mean, look at, I promise that I'm right here and you're just off out there somewhere. That's not really how God, yeah, he is present. And if I act as if he is not present, I'm never going to be able to live my best life. But when I seem to lose track of that, his presence, he's not like disappointed in me, or he's not gonna, he's not up there. He's up there. No, he's not. He's right here. And I think he's saying, I get it. This is hard. Well, part of the reason I really do believe that is his, that's where he's at, that's what he's doing, is because of my high view of grace. That grace, if I was really so good and so mature that I never seemed to lose track of the fact of God's presence, I wouldn't need grace, right? But I do need grace. And he doesn't resent me because I need it. Okay, move on. But the Lord stood at my side and gave me strength, so that through me the message might be fully proclaimed, and all the Gentiles might hear it. Okay. Paul had such a very strong sense of mission. I'm extrapolating this from my understanding of his letters. He believed that his purpose in life was singular. His purpose in life was to proclaim Christ as Lord, to proclaim the fact that Jesus had purchased our salvation, that his purpose was to make Jesus known in a world where he was not known. And out of that purpose came his mission, so that everywhere he went, this guy was on mission. Now, people that are that fully on in terms of mission, they sometimes can be, what's the word I would use? Well, they can be very inconvenient. They can really get in your way. They sometimes seem almost obstinate, because that a person that is that much on mission lives a little bit with blinders, in that if it doesn't fit with the mission, there's not time for it. I do not see myself as on mission in that way, and I want to be. I don't want to become obstinate and crusty and cranky and all of that. That's not what I'm talking about. But I want to know. I want to live into my purpose. I want to pursue my mission. And on one level, every believer, every follower of Jesus, every Christian has the same mission. That is to proclaim Christ. And now here is something that helps me. We don't have to do that all in the same way. We don't have to. All of us can't be Paul. All of us can't be a vagabond in a sense. I mean, Paul, I'm sure we don't even know that Paul had a home, a permanent residence. What we know, the biggest part of his life, we learn from the book of Acts and from his letters, and he never talks about a home. It's never recorded for us. And then he went back to his home. No. He was also, as we understand it, not married. And the reason we understand it this way is because he says so. When he said, I would like everyone to be like me, unmarried and without the obligations of marriage. Well, we can't all be that. And he didn't even mean that he literally wanted everyone to be single. You see, that won't work. You can't. He was basically, it was a statement of exaggeration to make a point. Okay. I don't even have to use the exact same techniques that Paul used to proclaim Christ. I'm not wired like him. I don't think you are wired like Paul, although I have some friends who are wired much more like Paul than I am, in the sense that they are very outspoken and very bold toward strangers, in fact. I don't want to give myself a get out of jail free card, but I almost am when I say I believe the way God put me together is more on a relational level. I proclaim Christ within relationships, and I gain a platform for proclaiming Christ from the validity of my relationships. Years ago, it was I think it was Mark Metalberg, who at that point in time was on staff at in Chicago at Willow Creek Church, who he wrote a book called Friendship Evangelism, and I think that it is valid. Other people, like I said, they just go for it. I have a very strong and distinct memory of my friend Danny Hinkle and I. This was it was more than 40 years ago. We were playing golf at Lincoln Park in Oklahoma City, and on the 8th hole, a par 3, play had backed up, and we were just lounging on the tee box. They'd put us with 2 other guys that we didn't know. And I'm, introverted. Danny is not in the least. And just out of the blue, he starts asking these guys, so, Howard, what do you think about, the Lord? Where are you with him? And I'm going, what in the world? Because I'm trying to figure out, how do I hit a straight golf ball? And Danny's, he's thinking about these guys' souls. I wish I were wired more like that. And there are times when I know I have needed to act in that way, even though I am not wired in that way. I guess what I'm trying to say is, we, like Paul, have a mission, and that is to proclaim Christ. But there are constraints that all of us have to live with. Some have to do with where we live. Some have to do with our health, some mental and physical. Some of us have to deal with the fact that we have commitments and obligations that make it unrealistic for us to travel broadly and do this proclamation as Paul did. We're not all the same, but here's the thing: use what you have where you are as best you can to live within the mission. Well, okay. I'm done for today. I'll see you next time on So Care with Stevie Boy.